Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys all set? We're good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our September 25th Portsmouth Town Council meeting. I'd like to begin with our emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, there are two doors on your left, another one at the front of council chambers here. We would exit the building, cross Middle Road, and wait further instruction at the school administration building. And with that, if we could all stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, some more housekeeping. We are live streaming. So for those of you that are participating remotely, if you're on Zoom, there's an icon to raise your hand. And if you're calling in on your phone, it's *6 will allow you to mute and unmute your phone. *9 will indicate to the host that you have a question. If you're participating remotely or in person tonight, please state your name and address for the town clerk. And next, we will move on to the roll call.
Ms. Abbott? Here. Mr. Gleason?
Here.
Mr. Hamilton?
Here.
Mr. Levat?
Here.
Dr. Ryan?
Here.
Mr. Aguirre?
Here. Thank you all. I do not have a president's summary. There was no executive session before tonight. So we'll move right into our first item, which is presentation recognition. Tonight's our opportunity to present the Portsmouth Award. This year, the award is going to be going to the St. John's Portsmouth Food Bank. At this time, I'd like to invite Mary Ann Crittenden up to the podium, where I will read the proclamation. I'd also like to point out that the proclamation is really, there are 28 members of the food bank that we couldn't have them all here tonight, but we do have them all here, and Mary Ann will be distributing them. So here we go. The Portsmouth Community Service Award, it's recognizing the St. John's Portsmouth Food Bank Group. Whereas the Portsmouth Community Service Award acknowledges outstanding individuals, businesses, and civic groups that consistently exhibit excellence in professional and community leadership. And whereas the town of Portsmouth is fortunate to have dedicated volunteers who, through their unwavering commitment, enhance the overall quality of life within our community. And whereas during the initial phases of COVID-19 pandemic, when businesses faced closures and individuals suddenly found themselves unemployed, a dedicated group of individuals established a food bank at St. Barnabas Church. This operation was subsequently relocated to St. John's Masons Hall on Sprague Street after 4 months. And whereas the group of devoted volunteers, including many from our community, continues to operate this food bank, providing essential support to as many as 125 families on a weekly basis. And whereas these volunteers selflessly contribute their time, personal vehicles, and significant physical effort to assist those in need without judgment or opinion on the circumstances of the recipients. And whereas this group consistently donates a substantial amount of food to each family, surpassing the contributions of other food banks, and they do so without requesting any donation from the recipients. And whereas the 2023 Portsmouth Community Service Award is hereby presented to the volunteers at the St. John Portsmouth Food Bank Group. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Portsmouth Town Council extends its heartfelt appreciation, congratulations, and profound gratitude on behalf of the entire Portsmouth community. And again, there are one for each of the members.
Right,
Does anyone photo opportunity? No, yes, maybe.
with us? We're not. for it.
You have a.
This young lady. can do it.
Where are we looking? Who are we looking at? Thank you.
Thank you.
You can take a few moments.
If I can just give you a small little piece of information regarding us. When we started this 3 years ago, we had about 35 families come through, and that was about 100 people. And now we're actually, in just a month, when I gave you the 125, we are now up to 138 families that are coming through. So we're up to 325 to 350 people. Our stats are 70% of them are senior citizens living on a fixed income, 40% of them are children, and 80% are Portsmouth. We do not require that you live in Portsmouth. We have Tiverton, Newport, Middletown, Little Compton, a lot of food banks that they would have taken advantage of have closed. So we're picking up the slack there. Just recently, our bill, the way we do it is we don't just give some SpaghettiOs and something else in the bag. We try and actually give everybody about 10 meals for a family of 4 in a bag. That's how we service the community. So we were at about $1,800 a week, and now we're up to 2,830 just because of the last spurt of people coming in need. We are we totally rely on donations. We don't take any funding. A lot of the funding organizations require you to take addresses, to take information, to ask people questions, and we don't do that. If you come up and say you need food, all you have to tell us is how many people are in your family. That's it. And that's our goal as a group, as the volunteers. We all agree with that. So that's where we, that's where we stand now. I always, when I give a spiel about the food bank, I always tell people, because I give it to the kids in certain churches and stuff, and I tell them to go home and thank their parents, because it is the residents of Portsmouth and the small businesses of Portsmouth that have been helping us stay alive this whole time. The numbers, they're real. So I just wanted to let you know that that's how extreme in 1 month we've gone up 10 more families, 13 more families. But everybody at the food bank will be very appreciative of this, because sometimes it's a thankless job. Not that that's why we do it, but it's nice to be recognized for doing a good job. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. All right, the next item is our consent agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. First item is a vicular license. It's annual new for Graphic Coffee Company LLC, 2005 East Main Road.
Move to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have a peddler's license, mobile food establishment, new Dockside Cafe, 1 Ferry Street, Fall River, Mass.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Move to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have minutes from our 9/11/23 meeting.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We are moving on to our town administrators report. Mr. Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to give you a quick heads up about our legislative priorities for the upcoming state legislative session. Typically, we hold a joint legislative meeting in January to discuss these priorities with our elected officials. We have 5 council meetings left in this calendar year, and I've asked staff to start putting together their legislative priorities. I'll work with the council president to combine our lists for your review and discussion later this fall. The annual police awards and promotion ceremony will be held at the Glen Manor House this Wednesday, September 27th. The ceremony will begin at 6 p.m. and our president, Kevin Aguirre, will represent the town council. And then lastly, the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns annual dinner will be this Thursday, September 28th. I and a number of our department heads will represent Portsmouth. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Okay, moving on to resignations and appointments. First, it's resignation of the Design Review Board for Mr. Paul Lorenzo. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Oh. You guys have you have a microphone on? Just that. Just.
Aye.
No, I'm not sure it came across, that's all. All right, it was 6-0. Next, we have appointments. First one is Conservation Commission. It's a reappointment of Jeff Reese.
I move that we approve Jeff Reese for the Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And then for the wastewater appeals board, there are 2 vacancies.
Move to approve both Ms. Wyatt and Mr. Kelly.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Moving on now to old business. First item is the monthly finance report.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. So as of the end of August, the town was 2 months or about 17% through fiscal year 2024. Year-to-date general fund revenues were at 21.4% of total budget. The primary drivers there being tax receipts, state aid, interest income, and town clerk receipts. Regarding expenditures, we were at about 17.2% of total budget. And the primary drivers there were insurance premiums, software licenses, and benefits. And the auditors were on site 2 weeks ago. They completed their on-site field work and will just continue to support that effort until the final report is issued. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Can I ask a quick question? On the very last page of the report, it just says general ledger element summary report account, and it says 100, and then it has like 10 question marks after it. Just curious as to what, did somebody fall asleep? That's what happens when I fall asleep.
Yeah, it's like a wild card essentially. When you're doing like a search for the account string, basically, that just grabs all the accounts in the system. It's just a system generated line, basically. So the key number there is 100. That's the general fund. So whenever you see 100 on these reports, that's all general fund related. Don't worry about the question marks.
Okay. The other question I have actually probably goes back to the bills that we paid. There was an item there, 57,000 for transfer station. Was that a monthly account? Is that a monthly amount paid on behalf of the citizens for the transfer, or behalf of us for the transfer station or Patriot disposal?
That's correct.
Okay. Is that consistent throughout the year, that amount?
Yes, correct. The contractual amount is around 49,000 per month roughly. There's some extra charges for additional disposal items. Depends on what we do for that month.
Answer your phone. Thank you,
No problem.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that it be received, the treasurer's report be received and placed on file.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. The next item under old business, it's a public hearing. This is a request approval for the proposed amendment to chapter 215 of the town code entitled Harbor Master, Article 7, Section I and Appendix B. Would anybody like to speak on the proposed amendment? This is a public hearing.
Mr. President, I mean, we're here for a public hearing on it, I guess, and I'm just going to reiterate some of my concerns from the last time. You recall, turned out we had about a $32,000 reserve in this account. I was advised that that might be necessary for any repairs to the vehicle or the vessel. But I wasn't all that happy with the fact that we were raising the fees, and it's nominal. I'm not going to say it's anything for anybody to become very concerned about, but I still have a problem just because it should only be based upon a fee to the town in this category should only be based upon a necessary expenditure we're making on behalf of it. And so that's my concern. Again, I would not suggest to anybody that's a major concern, but I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. Any further questions, comments from the public? Anybody online? Nothing online? Okay,
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new Harbor Commission, harbor mooring fees as presented.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
No,
Motion passes 5-1. Mr. Levesque was. No. Okay. All right. Moving on to new business. First item is a presentation for the Rhode Island 250 semi-quincentennial 250. And I believe we have Lauren Fogarty. That was a tough one for me.
Yeah,
Can't say that more than
yeah.
once.
I've
I'll make sure I
certainly
said it.
gotten very comfortable with the word in the last few months, so semi-quincentennial. Good. You'll soon know what
I
I'm sure.
agree.
Good evening, Council President and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight about an important initiative currently underway. My name is Lauren Fogarty, and I'm the Program Coordinator for the Rhode Island Semi-Quincentennial 250th Commission, or RI 250 for those who don't want to say semi-quincentennial. In 2026, we're set to mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. For some, this milestone may elicit memories of the excitement associated with the bicentennial period of our nation. I'm here today to bring attention to this tremendous opportunity for each community across the state and nation alike. Thank you for having us today in the beautiful town of Portsmouth to promote the creation of local 250th committees. RI 250 has been charged with developing ways to recognize and honor this anniversary in our state. The mission of the commission is to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our nation, the events throughout history in which our beautiful state has had a massive influence, and our largely forgotten role in the formulation of our nation. Most notably, our contributions to the ideals of freedom, equality, and independence. We at the commission are most excited to help facilitate this milestone statewide and years-long multifaceted commemoration. We intend to engage as many Rhode Islanders as possible, and we believe the natural next step is to organize at the municipal level. One of the duties of the commission is to collaborate with local organizations to promote the pivotal role that Rhode Island played in the founding of our country. Therefore, we would like to take this time to invite Portsmouth to organize a local 250th committee to encourage the most comprehensive and inclusive commemoration ever. I have shared a resource with Richard Tulipsky and Jen, and hopefully the council as a whole. This is provided by the American Association of State and Local Histories, the AASLH, who have taken the reins on this project from the federal level. Although this information is directed at a larger scale commission like RI 250, I feel as though the toolkit outlined, as well as the other resources included, are helpful for this endeavor. The example of a working group seems like the best approach for this. Of course, Portsmouth is no stranger to massive milestones such as the semi-quincentennial, being the second oldest municipality in the state. Our neighbors in South Kingstown have also been celebrating their 300th anniversary this year. The programming, academic resources, and public engagement have been significant. The town has marked this unique milestone with a lecture series on the town's history, a large-scale bonfire, and they've elevated regular or annual events, including their annual Arts and Culture Festival, and something they like to call River Fire. The town will also install a 14-foot sculpture dedicated and designed in the influence of their history and their identity as a community, and it will be installed in their town green. The opportunities are really endless, and I've heard good things about the 350th in this current municipality. Commemorative events like the semi-quincentennial can bring communities together and promote a sense of identity. There is so much progress to celebrate. And during my time with the Rhode Island 250th Commission, many people look back on the bicentennial with fond memories, and I think that we can make this the best commemoration yet. Today, I brought a small pop-up archives presentation or similar to what we could provide in a collaborative event in the future. These documents range from the Portsmouth Compact of 1638, the Votes of Free Men from 1788, instructions to the town delegates in Portsmouth circa 1790, a photograph of the damage of the hurricane of 38, and other pieces of Portsmouth's history. This is an example of a type of display that we could curate at an America 250 Portsmouth event, of course, in tandem with the Secretary of State's office and our state archives. In addition, Secretary Amore hopes to coordinate projects with each municipality, including an evergreen program such as the planting of elm trees in each town. And we're very excited for what's in store. Therefore, I come to you today to urge this council to establish a committee to mark this milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fogarty. Any questions?
Couple of questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
On elms, trees difficult, aren't they in danger?
So we've actually found a specific species of elm trees that is, it withstands a number of the diseases that have been plaguing some of these trees. So we're hopeful that they'll last for many
Your name
generations.
is historically kind of famous. Are you from the Foster Gloucester Fogarty?
No, I'm from the southern Rhode Island, from Narragansett,
As good a family as any.
definitely.
So I just wanted to say, way before you were born, I think some of us here might remember 50 years ago when the tall ships went by the Statue of Liberty for the 300th anniversary. It's one of the most inspiring, breathtaking, and actually we had the good fortune to have the tall ships come through here. And that was a very inspiring, and I cannot stress enough that it is an important time to recall the echoes from our patriot graves. And this town is actually a hotbed for, we have a wonderful group that's restored the
Patriots Park.
Fort Butts
Battle of Rhode
area, which
Island,
was
yeah, there's
an
quite a lot going
actual
on.
abutment. We have the Black Regiments, which was a group. Also, you may be interested to try to find it. We actually have a stone, a big rock somewhere in town that commemorates the founding of the town of Portsmouth. And it's right at Founder's Brook.
I'll have to take a look.
I would say that probably half the people in this town don't know it exists and don't know where it is.
Yes.
I only know because we used to drink there when I was a kid. Half of my knowledge of Portsmouth was where I used to drink as a kid. Mr. President, I'm not trying to force myself upon you, but I certainly would be willing to participate in an organization of this type.
Thank you, Ms. Levesque. Do we need a motion to establish a committee? I mean, how?
Well, we have an ad hoc committee called the Portsmouth Historical Society. They're all sitting in the audience. I would think they would be thrilled to volunteer to.
That's
help
what
out with
that's
this.
where I'm going with this. There's a lot of members there.
And Mr. Talipsky has a lot of institutional knowledge of how to do a 350th birthday party.
So do we need,
375th, sorry. I knew my math was wrong.
so do we need to formalize anything, I guess is really more of the question, in order to move this forward and work together to make this a success, really?
Perhaps most appropriate would be to refer this correspondence to the Portsmouth Historical Society. That well?
I'm on it.
See, I
See
knew
that?
I knew something would get him on.
Even if someone's
Come on
got
up.
to get paid, huh?
Fry him up.
Craig Clark, 701 Park Ave, President of the Portsmouth Historical Society. I want to announce you were, I think Portsmouth is in very good shape for the 250th anniversary upcoming in 2026 and 2028. We have a new group called the Battle of Rhode Island Association, which is dedicated to this event. I think we're all feeling, though, we don't want to be added to another committee at this point because we're already overcommitted as it is, but we definitely want to participate in some form or fashion. I look at 2028 as our fireworks, as far as what happened here on this grounds, as far as the Battle of Rhode Island. So we want to be involved. I'm not sure what form or committee, and I'd like to talk to the board of the Historical Society and the Battle of Rhode Island about how we would be involved and work together on this and include the council, or more importantly, recruit more members of the community to a committee or a commission, or to work with us on that, and with the state, obviously, Lauren. So by all means, we want to do something. I just don't want to sit in another board meeting, or we don't have to. So we're all on board. I think you have a committee of probably 25, 30 people already. It's just how we all work together. So
I appreciate that, Mr. Clark, and I think really the commitment is here. It's just a question of how we actually move it forward, but I think there's going to be a wealth of support from the town and
I just want to, George Will once described, I think, football as the game of football as the worst parts of America, random violence interrupted by committee meetings. I always thought, that's a good, yeah, Mr. President, I mean, I think there probably need to be a liaison of some kind between the various groups and this council. So I am willing, as always, to liaise.
well, thank you, Mr. Levesque, and if
I am
that's-
actually also currently on the Black
Yeah.
Regiment Commission, so.
and you've stepped in on for the Butts Hill Fort presentations as well.
Not the first time I stepped into something.
So you are all things historical, so I appreciate your enthusiasm.
I am the oldest guy here.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we advertise for potential members to join the committee, for this semi-quintessential, something like that. I didn't believe that one.
I think the Rhode Island 250 sounded much better.
250.
Just going with
All
that.
right, 250. See what kind of interest we get in town.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. So we will definitely be in touch. We'll formulate a working group and a liaison and we'll move this forward. So thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Oh, wait a minute.
Ms. Fogarty, we have the town historian coming up.
Yeah.
I'm Jim Garman, the town historian and past president of the Historical Society. And my feeling about this is it's a fine project, but I think that if you add it on to the work of the Historical Society, you're pushing us too hard. We have a lot of projects going right now. We're doing signage, we're doing Battle Rhode Island, we're doing Butts Hill, we're doing a whole bunch of other stuff, and we don't have a lot of volunteers to do this kind of stuff. So my advice is that we take it under advisement, but that we not jump into it right now with a committee that's going to start having meetings for the next, 3 years, every month or something like that. We went through a lot with our 375th anniversary in 2013. And I gave 12 lectures that year, and I give about 10 a year now. And I would invite all members of the council to come to one of my lectures once in a while. I think that we really run the risk of few people doing an awful lot of work for something like this. We already do a lot of history in this town. I've been doing it for 40 years. And I think that we really need to stop and think about how much we want to get involved in this. We had similar problems. It's kind of interesting. We had similar problems in 1936 and 1938, because in 1938, Portsmouth was celebrating its 200th anniversary and 300th anniversary. Is that right? And in 36, the state was celebrating. And so what happened was that Portsmouth ended up having a lot of its ceremonies in 1936 instead of 1938, because we had to kind of go along with the flow of history. And there's tremendous history in this town. There's no question about that. And we really want to emphasize it as much as we can. But I think that there is a limit in terms of the number of people that we have working on this, the number of people that are, and I won't say acceptable, I'll say enthusiastic about doing this kind of thing. And I think we should proceed cautiously. And I think certainly we haven't had a Historical Society board meeting about this yet. We will next month. And hopefully we'll have a good discussion about that. We're certainly not limiting this to the Historical Society. We're willing to take any volunteers who want to help. And there should be more than the 15 of us that are interested in doing this. I think it's a worthwhile project, but I think we have to sort of proceed cautiously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garman.
I would just note, if I might, Mr. President, I believe actually we decided that we weren't referring it directly to the Historical Society, but we're actually trying to create, if you will, a network that everybody could work together on. I would also mention to you that 350 doesn't come around every year. It just doesn't. The other thing I would mention to you is that the stone that I mentioned, that you probably know where it is off of Founder's Brook, that was placed there in 1938, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we can handle, I appreciate actually all that the Historical Society does. I think as a community, we can, and quite frankly, we don't do enough in many ways to acknowledge our past and the history that this presents. And again, I would reiterate that it is the history of this community in this country that gets all the varied philosophies to act as one. And that is a very important thing.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Okay. We're going to move on to new business number 2. And this was put on the agenda to discuss the relocation of our October 23rd council meeting from council chambers to the Portsmouth High School auditorium. We're doing this in an effort to provide accommodations for an old business from our September 11th meeting. We had an agenda item there. And we had a lot of public that showed up for that meeting, and we did not have the ability to get everyone in council chambers. We discussed potentially a special meeting, but I think it makes sense to just move our regular October 23rd meeting from council chambers to the high school.
So, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I actually want to just mention, I think that's a great idea. I will be making a motion if that's what required in order to facilitate that. I did mention before the meeting to the administrator that I think I may be the only one who's ever appeared on stage at the Portsmouth Auditorium Theater. I had many roles there. Boom River Anthology, I think, is one that many people remember. I'm sure you do. Anyway, and I was going to suggest that there was always a habit to have us down in the well orchestra pit, even though there's no, and I would like to suggest one that we do it there. We have the people up on the stage so they are clearly visible to the community there. And really, that would be it. I think it's much easier, 2 microphones down at the end of each aisle so people could come up. And if we have enough advanced planning, I think it should be relatively easy to do. I don't know anything about the technology. I would assume they'd be able to accommodate a public Zoom type meeting. So I'd make a motion that we do in fact relocate our October 23rd meeting to the Portsmouth High School auditorium, and that one of the items on that agenda be a discussion of the Public Works Director correspondence regarding the transfer station.
Thank you, Mr. Lebec.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Mr. President, I have no idea, but perhaps clearly if we could be prominent on our clearly if it could be prominent on our website page. There was concern that we would do this under color of darkness. And while I was not apprehensive about that, certain people were. We can make sure as much notification as is seemingly is provided.
Thank you, Mr. Lebec. Okay. Next item is a request to advertise for a public hearing for a sound variance to allow for a block party in the Taylor Road cul-de-sac on October 27th, 2023 from 2 to 8 p.m.
So we'd have to have this at our next meeting. Is that enough time to advertise?
Yes.
Okay, motion to advertise and have a public hearing on October 10th, which is a Tuesday.
Mhm.
Yeah, the previous day is a holiday, right?
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. Next, we have correspondence.
Mr. President, I be moved that all the correspondence be received and placed on file.
Mr. President, I would like to see items 1 and 3 for discussion at the next town council meeting, please.
Okay. So we'll move 1 and 3 to our next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And item number 2 is just
So I would be
placed on
I
file.
would second.
We needed a
Mr.
second.
Levesque's,
Yeah, sorry.
motion for item number 2 to be placed on file.
All right. Let's back up. I messed that up.
We needed a second for Mr. Gleason's.
All right.
You just got one.
So we.
Mr. Lex,
Yeah, so we have a second, motion and a second to put place item 1 and 3 on our next council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. And then we also had a motion and a second, right, for the item number 2 to be received and placed on
I
file.
don't think he actually had a second. I don't think Mr.
Oh,
Gleason.
don't get technical, Kevin. Let's just vote.
No, but
Council Levesque made a second to.
he seconded yours, but
Oh.
nobody seconded his original motion to replace, receive and place on file. So
Oh.
second to your.
Who's on first?
All right.
Exactly.
So we do have the motion and a
Think we're
second to receive and place on file number 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. Future meetings, as we just mentioned, October 10th is our next regular council meeting, and that is a Tuesday. Followed by October 14th, which is our Prudence Island Town Council meeting on a Saturday. Followed by October 23rd, Town Council meeting, which will now be at the high school. And then our November 13th council meeting back here in council chambers.
Mr. President, I would like to know for the record that Ms. Catherine is not here due to a religious observance. I think some people in town at least know that I am very much a secularist in terms of town government, but I certainly do think that all religious affiliations should be respected and if possible, recognized and used. So my suggestion is in the future that perhaps we can try to keep track of when people might have conflicts that they would not be able to otherwise transgress. So that this doesn't have to happen and the town is not deprived of Lenny's comments.
For the record, I would agree.
Yeah, thank you.
We've
Mr. Lex.
discussed it somewhat that we do that next time.
Move that we adjourn?
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all.